Today, we're talking about how to add AI automation to a business without wasting a bunch of time and money. Here's what happens. Someone decides they need an automation or an AI agent. They find a developer and they say, make my sales process automated or have my AI run my customer service. 3 months and $20,000 later, nothing's working. I'm Nolan Grout, and I built tons of working systems for real business processes. And what I've learned is this. The projects that work don't try to replace an entire department or person. They replace one repeating decision at a time. And in this video, I'm going to show you the exact steps I use to figure out what's worth building first. By the end, anyone watching will know how to tell a developer what to build without wasting 5 figures on something that doesn't work. Let me start with why most projects fail. The mistake that I see over and over is people, they try to replace an entire job in one go. Someone will come to me and say, I want an AI agent to handle my customer messages, or I need something to run my entire sales process. And look, I get it. That's the dream, right? Press a button and everything just runs itself. But here's what actually ends up happening. They spend months and a lot of money building this huge system, and then it breaks when it's live because it's trying to handle too many different situations and it's making guesses that it shouldn't be making. And unfortunately, nobody seems to know where it went wrong. It's this big idea with this fuzzy plan. It ends up being an expensive mess. But here's the thing. Every business process, sales, marketing, customer service even, is made up of dozens of little decisions. Some of these decisions are simple and they repeat over and over and over again, where some need creativity and human touch. The trick is breaking the process into pieces and tackling the highest value, lowest creativity stuff first. Get a quick win, save time, save money, then move on to the harder stuff. Let me give an example. Let's take a sales process. There's lead qualifying, follow-up, meeting, scheduling, proposal writing, negotiation, closing. That's 6 different things. Which of those should we automate first? The ones that happen most often and need the least creativity. Lead qualifying can happen hundreds of times a day. It's the same decision every time. Is it a real buyer or are they just a window shopper? That's the first domino. Proposal writing and negotiation, that's creative. That's human. That comes later or maybe never. The goal is not to replace people. It's to get the repetitive stuff off their plate so that they can then focus on what actually moves the needle and needs a real human brain to accomplish, right? I worked in real estate for a long time and they were drowning in messages from potential buyers. It would take a couple hours every day just to look at the messages and decide, are these people window shopping or are they serious buyers, right? Now, here's the thing. This is 2 hours every day of non-creative work. It's the same thing over and over. It was kind of like lead comes in, send them a message, make a call, and see if they're a real buyer or just browsing, We didn't build a system to run the entire sales process at the time, but we did build something to just handle that one decision. And that's it, the one piece. And it worked. It saved tons of time and allowed the real closers to get on the phone with qualified prospects instead of wasting hours dialing and ringing window shoppers up. Because every day it would take 2 hours and they would end up talking on the phone for maybe 2 conversations. It's like, that's not worth their time. So now the AI goes, qualifies them, make sure the lead is good, and then sends it to the salesman so they know, oh, I'm actually going to talk to a real person right now, right? But we built something to handle that one decision, and that was it. The one piece, and it worked. And that's the kind of the problems that these systems, like, they crush it at. It's not because of some magic, but it's because it's the same choice repeating over and over and over with no creativity needed. Code and AI, they can handle that all day long. So here's the checklist. Before talking to any developer, before Googling anything, run through these 3 rules, and this is how to know if the idea is ready or if it's about to waste your time and your money. Rule number 1, it has to happen a lot and doesn't need creativity. So the task happens multiple times per week or multiple times per day, and it takes almost zero creative thinking, right? Good examples would be sorting messages from buyers or putting receipts in categories, setting up meetings, deciding who gets which support ticket or which lead. Bad examples might be writing full ads or making entire slide decks with no human oversight, right? Planning business strategies, things like that. It's so many steps in itself. You're going to have it's just going to give you more of it. Here's the test for any process. Can the steps of the process be written down and they'd basically be the same every time? If yes, that's what we want. If the answer is, well, it depends, that's going to be more creative work. Rule number 2 is the answer is either A or B and not a whole paragraph of answers, right? And this is huge because most people are missing this right now. The system needs to kind of give a specific answer from a short list, right? A, B, C, not a strategy, a choice. Good examples would be yes or no, or send to support, or send to the sales team, or send to the marketing team, right? Those are concrete answers where it's not like sometimes we're going to send this person to the sales team and sometimes we're going to send them to the marketing team. And you have to give this whole paragraph long answer about why, when it goes to the sales team and when it goes to the marketing team. No, we need to know, does it get like A or B, right? Sales or marketing, like you got to choose one. I hope that made sense. An explanation of what happened is also not going to work. If that's maybe a better way to put it, right? There shouldn't be an explanation of the next step. It should be step A, step B, and there can be multiple options in step B, but they can't be variable every time, right? The multiple options in step B have to be choice A, choice B, choice C, not a whole paragraph of when this happens, then we'll do this. And then when this happens, you got to go and do this. And no, like we got to simplify it, right? Then we'll be able to build the system. That way it makes it way easier when I'm building a system out if I label it this way, right? All the variables, the creativity in there, that's what ends up breaking the system. And so why does this matter so much? Well, because the answer needs to be checkable, right? If the system is writing essays, then there's no way to know if it's really doing well without reading every single line of every single answer. Kind of ruins the whole point of the automation. But if it can just say real buyer or send to marketing or send to sales team, well, that's trackable and that can be checked, right? It can be made better, it can be improved, but we can't improve what we can't measure, right? Rule number 3, it's costing real time and money right now. This should be obvious, but I'll say it. The task needs to be costing time or money today. If the sales team from earlier is spending 10 hours a week sorting through buyer messages and each employee costs $30 an hour, that's minimum $300 a week and $15 grand a year. Apply that to 2 or 3 employees, you're looking at $30 or $40 grand, right? Now building that $3,000 automation that does this 24/7, 365 days a year for multiple years makes way more sense. But just trying to build something that would be nice or might save some time later, don't build it yet. I promise you, right? I find it best to focus on the problems that are actively costing time and money. They might not always be the flashiest or the most fun, like an AI voice agent or AI texting agent that does everything for you. But this checklist, I made it because it works, right? It forces thinking like someone who builds things that work, not someone who builds dreams. For the business owners, when you're working with people who build these things, they need these clear edges, okay? They need specifics. When they're handed a problem that happens a lot, and it needs no creativity at all, has a simple answer, and is costing you time and money right now, I promise they can build something that works in days and not months. All right, so there's a problem that fits all 3 rules. It happens a lot, needs no creativity, simple answer, and it costs real time and money. Perfect. Now let's talk about what do you actually say to the developer? Because most people send an email like, hey, I need help with, sorting some buyer messages. Can this be built? And then they're shocked when the answer is $30,000 and maybe a 3-month time frame. And that just happens because you're given the goal and you're not really giving the instruction. A lot of times these people who are, if you're just looking for a straight developer, the people who build the things aren't going to be the ones building the goals for your business, right? They'll build the specific functions to help you achieve those goals, but you need to be able to outline the specific inputs and outputs and everything, right? So here's what you need to give instead. You need to give them what goes in, what happens, and what comes out. Those are the 3 things for any system. Let me say it again. What goes in, what happens, and what comes out. You need to supply the developers, the builders, whoever you're having make these systems for you with those 3 things if you want success. Now let's walk through this with that buyer messaging example. So first I ask myself, what goes in? What information does the system need to make the decision? In this case, the buyer's email and phone, their message, and maybe notes that they sent in with the form that they submitted. Got to be specific, and I'll list the exact pieces down. The more specific this is, the faster I can build it, right? Next thing, I ask myself, what happens? What decisions are being made? This is where the logic gets described. No coding, just explain what a real buyer looks like versus someone who's just browsing. For example, a buyer mentions a specific house or has a budget in mind, and they ask about the next steps. That shows they're a committed buyer, right? They're not just browsing, they're actively asking for the next steps. Someone who's just browsing is vague and they don't mention money, right? They're always scared about the budget, or they kind of seem like they might be killing time. And if rule number 2 was followed, simple answer from a short list, this part should be pretty straightforward. Finally, I asked myself, what comes out? What happens after the decision? Does it add a label in the customer system? Does it send a message to the sales team? Does it route the buyer to a specific person, right? Again, be as specific as possible. So I might say something like add a hot buyer tag and follow up boss CRM and send a message to the sales team via the Slack channel, right? So I was very specific what technology is using, who's it's going to, and things like that, right? And here's the thing, because once you have what goes in, what happens, and then what comes out written down, your project's already like 80% done. Now the developer knows exactly what to build with no guessing. There's no reason to add features that aren't needed. They're just building a function that takes the input, follows the rules, and gives the output, All right, let's talk about what happens after the system goes live, because this is where a lot of people get nervous, and even me, like I'll worry it's going to make mistakes or it won't be as good as a person, right? And yeah, the truth is it probably won't be perfect on day one, but that's fine. The goal isn't to be perfect on day one. It's to replace the time sink and money sink that already existed and improve upon the existing systems. And here's what it unlocks next. Once one is working, the next one is going to be way easier. Now, if you want to add another section to the sales system, go ahead. Instead of just having lead qualifiers, if you also wanted to book appointments, now is the time that you add that automation in after you've gotten the lead qualification down to a point that you're happy with it. Then you can stack process 3 or 4, or maybe 3 and 4 are all human intervention steps, and then you pick back up on step 5 and 6 of the process, right? Point is, we're building by chunks, and we're taking the most efficient. We're taking the biggest time sinks, the biggest money sinks, and we're going to automate those first, right? That real estate team I keep mentioning, they might start with the lead qualifying, and then they, maybe build something to send follow-up emails, and then something to maybe schedule showings, and boom, slowly they stack it up and they're cutting their admin work by 40, 50, 60%. That's what I'm doing personally. I start small and I just start right, and then I build on top of it. All right, so here's the summary. For any business owner who's looking to build their first system, don't ask a developer to make my business smarter or add AI agent that can handle my sales, right? Ask them to handle a single decision that repeats over and over again. Use the 3 rules. Happens a lot and needs no creativity. Simple answer from a short list and costs time or money right now. When briefing the developer or whoever you choose to work with, give them what goes in, what happens, and what comes out. Be specific, be concrete, and make it impossible to misunderstand. Do that, and something that works will come back in days or weeks and not months. And it costs a few $1,000s instead of tens of thousands. If you want to build to learn AI agents and automations for yourself, check out the school link. And for any business owner ready to just get it done, I do custom builds for people who want their next system live in the next 30 days. Reach me directly at nolangrout.com, link below. But whether we work together or not, the framework that I just covered is the same one I use for every project, and following it puts any business owner way ahead of most people trying to figure this stuff out. All right, that's it for this one. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.